Hello, Martin. Hello.
Yes, Michael, hello. Yes.
How are you?
Oh, today is stressful day. I
Oh,
believe.
I know in Germany I'm not supposed to ask how are you. I should say hope you're okay. How's that?
Yeah, you. Thanks for telling me the sources about this market research. I will.
Well, Martin, so if you had a big library, you could fill every shelf with food and beverage market research reports. That's how big it is in terms of marketers, because
Okay.
it's got to be a couple $100 billion worldwide, right? That's just beverages. Food and beverage is 10% of global economy. I mean,
Uh,
it's a lot bigger than automotive, a lot bigger than housing. Everyone's got to eat and drink.
mm, interesting.
So, yeah, the reports I sent you are just the tip of the iceberg. I hope they were helpful. Some of them you have to buy for all the details, but the
Michael,
summaries they give in the blogs are
Michael,
really good.
I don't think that I would buy and read those because that's
Well, it's up to your client. If your client's from Coca-Cola, he probably has reams of paper like that, you know.
but I still believe that this is the wrong approach.
Well, the innovation, though, there's about 10% of the executive summaries that have to do with new products and innovation, Martin. And that's why I sent you a supplement to Frost and Sullivan. They actually have a subtopic called innovation and new products and beverages.
Okay. Now the
Yes.
thing the thing is rather um, and I for the danger that I'm repeating myself. When innovation, non-incremental innovation is happening, when you identify a problem that people are willing to pay for being solved, or in other words, it's worth being solved.
Well, I call that demand pull. For years, I've been saying this, Martin, for the group. There's supply push. So
Yeah.
just like the jet engine, some of the beverage companies, they don't go to customers. They come up with new products. And I think vitamin water might have been like that. You don't go to a customer for bottled water and see what they want. They're not going to tell you they want vitamin water. So I think PepsiCo and others started vitamin
Yeah, but
water
that's
supply push
that's
strategy,
not
not
that's not
solving a problem. It's not
that's
solving a problem.
yeah, but this is not how it works. The demand pull means that is the idea that the clients or the typical market would know what they want.
Well, no, identifying a solution to a problem, even though the customer doesn't know that's a problem, I still call that demand pull because you're doing something on an innovation that's solving a problem.
Yeah,
Supply pushes do more better, like the jet engine enables 600 miles an hour instead of 300 miles an hour with a propeller. That's supply push. But
anyway,
it's a fine line, Martin. But both
I,
are
I, I
both are
will not be
important.
able to. I mean, I can see that, but I can also see because I've seen so many failed products that this doesn't work.
Well,
And
fundamental economics is supply side and demand
uh,
side.
maybe,
So that's
maybe, but I don't want to argue because it's really boring for the audience. So, um, yes, hello everybody. Oh, we live in exciting times. Um, we are talking about innovation, right? And why innovation is happening. And when we talk about that, then we talk about the car industry already for a very long time. And yeah, we have two main players here today, is Christoph Hering and also Jürgen Brügel. And they're both somehow interested in the car industry for some reason. And what is happening currently is the Nexperia. Isn't it, would we call it affair or is it incident or is it problem or I don't know. 5 days ago, nobody would have thought that this is such a problem, but as it turns out now, that alone Volkswagen VW, they need to close a factory where they make about 1,000 SUVs per day. It's the Tiguan is really a thing, and that amounts to 360,000 per year. Something like yeah, is really something that moves. Is a huge thing, and this thing stands still now. That's what I've heard today in the news. In this one of two models that is still built in Germany, the other one is a Golf, and that one is stopped then for eternity. And if that is true, I mean, if this figure is true, I'm not sure because it sounds really a lot to me. And that would be something like 7 or 8% of the total car production in Germany in one factory alone, and that is closed down.
Actually, Martin, I can send you a YouTube video. It's not only the Volkswagen factories who are standing, it's also the Stellantis factories who have the same problem with the chips. And a lot of them in Spain and Italy are also closed at the moment. Also, the factory in Poland, Aret, is also closed. So they basically sent all the factories into a 7-day to 10-day break. So all the cars are stopping.
Yeah.
I have a
It's really
nice
quite huge.
overview. I have a nice overview. I put it in the chat where you can have a look where an Xperia products are in. And I'm sure the whole vehicle industry is right now really, really getting nervous because you cannot just replace one part with another. You have to requalify it, especially if it's safety related.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And driver assistance ADAS is safety, LiDAR, front and rear cameras, body control, LED lights, HVAC, safety control, relevant. Interior LED lighting, okay, that's not so problematic, but you have a CAN, LIN modules, you have chokes for suppression of EMI, and. So, the moment the suppliers are running out of stock, they have to stop the production of their modules, and then there is one after another failing. I mean, we had once the problem that the yarn to knit the leather steering wheels, we had a problem from Tunisia. No yarn there. The car cannot leave the factory. Even if the smallest little gear is failing, we have a standstill.
Okay. Yeah, I was just realizing how weird that brought together. And 3 days ago, we all thought, oh, that's interesting because somehow the CEO, this Nexperia company is owned by a Chinese company, which is called Wing something. And this company is listed or blacklisted in the US. And then the US wanted the CEO to resign, so that there's a less connection between this Wing company in China and Nexperia in the Netherlands. And at one point in time, the Dutch forced the CEO to resign, and the Chinese headquarter also of Nexperia and the government reacted to that, saying, "Okay, now we don't supply anymore." Is this correct, Christoph, or is it something?
Perfect. Perfect. This
Uh-huh.
is exactly what was happening.
And yeah, if you know
Yeah,
Chinese,
maybe to add a little bit more, it's actually more crazy because I just shared the video in the group.
yes,
The story is this chip is basically manufactured in Hamburg, Germany, but then it needs to be packaged, and the packaging is happening in China. So they ship these chips to China for packaging, and then they will be added to the cars and all to these components. And China basically added a ban, so these packaged chips can no longer be exported without a license. So now the chip is basically made in Germany, but can only be packaged in China, and that is one of the major problems now.
yeah,
So if you run out, you need to stop everything. And as we already mentioned, they're basically all over the car in all components.
okay. If that is, I've heard the same thing, and it so happens that I'm an expert patent attorney for chip packaging because my team and I, we have written about 5,000 chip packaging patents for Infineon over a period of 15 years. So I've really seen everything about chip packaging. And what I can tell you is that the back end, the packaging is even more complicated than making the chips.
Mhm.
Because if there's a failure, then very often is a contact failure, and the contact failure comes from bad packaging. And also the testing is located at that. So testing and packaging is one thing. And I believe that the Chinese would not only package the chips, but also do the testing. And no, wait, my phone ringing. Yeah. So I can say that this is a very bad thing. So somehow I need to. Someone is calling me. So now it's done.
The majority of the packaging companies are sitting in Taiwan. And I just had a meeting with one of them, and everybody and his mother is asking for volume, whether there is something free, but they're completely loaded. They're at 98% already. So it's also not just to go from one to another, and until the process is run in, that also takes months,
Mhm.
even if they are the experts. So this will be really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit like to me, it sounds a bit like blackmailing.
Yeah, sure. That's what it is. This is what China is. Come on. They have all the rare earth. This is where back in the days I was scared because of the loudspeakers, the Neodune loudspeakers for the weight, etc., etc. And I started a campaign to say, attention, attention. They are right now killing off all mines that do fördern, that do mining for these rare earths. And everybody said, ah, well, the Chinese are our friends and it will be all right. But they never listened to the argument. Once a mine was has to close because they are not competitive, or better said, they cannot keep the prices, the dumping prices. They cannot match up with this. This moment, when it's closed, it will rarely open back again. This is an extreme effort. The
Okay.
people are gone, the equipment is gone, everything is gone, and well, the Chinese are the winners.
Hmm.
And now with our transition, our green transition, where we need so much electric motors, they
Hmm.
all need these rare earth magnets and so on and so forth. Um, Lithium, also wonderful example. This is where the Chinese destroyed the market. They are also with the solar panels, they are the market. They have the market, that's it. And the same thing what they're trying right now with their electric vehicles. They are selling it way under price. Um, the production costs maybe 40,000, and they're selling the cars for 20,000 because they're standing on the lot. They still have 20,000 plus.
Hmm.
But they're also losing 20. Otherwise, they would lose 40,000. So this is a reasoning behind that.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is where they and in Europe, oh, our car industry is suffering so much. We were sleeping so long. No, we were not sleeping so long. It's just, I mean, we have produced it to market conditions, what we can do, and also all the testing, and this takes years to have a vehicle really severely tested. And I cannot imagine a company within 2 years to build a complex system like a vehicle, uh, Huawei, and bringing it to the market. Uh, well, if some explodes, so what? It's bad luck. In Europe, not imaginable. But this is what is happening right now. And the Europeans are so stupid, and they're all crying for a 20,000 euro car, what is simply with enough range and so on, not possible.
Not possible, right? Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but I'm getting angry.
No, but the question is rather when you look at it from an expert's point of view, I do not think that you simply can, if this is really the only supply that is available, you cannot ramp back a car factory within 7 days if one supplier decides that they would not supply anymore. That's
Yeah, it's more to this because when they stop, they all the suppliers, even the ones who have enough capacity and so on, they have to send their people home because it's a just-in-time business. There are not big capacities for parts. They are more or less, yes, bring it in the door and we put it in within an hour.
Yeah. You know, to what this reminds me, the whole situation as we have it now, to the year 2000, 2001. Because in the 1999, 2000, we had the dot-com surge, right? All the dot-com values at the stock markets, they were thriving high and everybody was happy. And then in the year 2000, this bubble, as we discovered later, popped. And then the whole thing went down, and only in 2001, in September 11, which I remember very well, suddenly there was a shock, and that was a black swan event. And only after the September 11 event, the whole economy collapsed a few stories further. And when you look at the old charts, then all the big stock markets and also economy itself, it declined from the year 2000, maybe in April onwards, to September 2001, and then came the September 11, and then the whole thing really started to collapse, and it only was better in about April 2003. I remember very, very vividly. So, and I've seen a similar pattern here. Some of you may remember that this year in March, I wrote an analysis about the German car industry, and I warned that there's a big problem going on. And then the tariffs, the US tariffs in March, they were still not yet out. And so I dug out the report just 1 hour ago. And the maximum was, and you can see that in one of the, I believe, Michael, you have sent me a Financial Times chart of the industry production in Germany. Or yeah, industry production in Germany. Or was it the export or both? I don't know. And it was a yellow chart, and I posted it even in our 4x4 group on LinkedIn. And you could see very clearly from that chart that the maximum of the German production was in the year 2017. And in that year, 5 million units of cars were produced on German soil. And from these 5 million in 2017, 7 years later, the number went down to 4.1 million. That was in March 2025, always per year. So the monthly is then about 1/12 of this. And in April, what you also need to know is that the export was something between 70 and 75% of the 5 million. So is about 3.5 to 3.8 million units were exported, and 13% of those exports went to the US. And those 13% within a very short time went down to 0%. So the about 350,000 cars in 2025 are produced less because the export from German factories to US market just broke away. So these 350,000 per year fell away in April just because there was a tariff of 25% on I don't know, is it 15 or 25 or I don't know. I even don't know the number, and please correct me if you're there. And so the 350,000 that were exported to the US but now are no longer exported to the US are missing already. And on top of that, alone from one single factory that does the Tiguan, 350,000 per year are also missing. So in one year, the production sank from 4.5 million to 3.4 million. Which is a lot. It's almost 20%. And we have 1 million workplaces in the car industry plus times 3 in the suppliers. So is in total 4, and of those 400,000, 4 million workplaces, my guess is roughly 700,000 will fall away just because of the 2 events. For the breakaway of the US exports, the total breakaway of US exports, plus now what is happening because of that Nexperia chip crisis. So is a major, if a country, even the size of Germany, loses 700,000 workplaces within 6 months, this is a major event, I would say. It qualifies as a black swan. And I believe that we will see that very soon in the stock market. Could even trigger a crash.
And there is still the AI bubble lingering.
Yeah, poor.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you can always see bad things, but when you see an airplane or 2 airplanes crashing 2 major buildings as in 2001, September 11, that's one thing. And such a physical event has happened a few days ago with an Xperia thing, because it's a bit like a terrorist attack on the European car manufacturer.
Mhm.
Well, we also had the AWS servers go down from a single DNS record, and I wouldn't put that as I wouldn't count that out as an attack. It's not proven to be one, but I wouldn't count it out as one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that ultimately the outcome is important, right? And if yeah, imagine I only hear it now from Christoph and from Jürgen that I'm surprised that this would ramp down large parts of the European car factory, and yeah, and then it's a small part, right? I don't know, but how many parts are there missing now altogether?
I haven't found out exactly what the missing parts are, but Nexperia does diodes, does MOSFETs, and all these things.
Mhm.
So they are in every control unit.
Okay.
And if you're lucky, you can replace part A with part P, but still you have to re-qualify.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, when it's safety related, then you are in big doo-doo.
Yeah, much is safety related because
Yeah.
that's also what I heard in my investigations. When I go to Germany, none of the young managers today is willing to take responsibility anymore. for any and Jürgen, I believe you told me that they don't dare to try out new things because they don't want the responsibility, correct?
Exactly. Yes.
And that is a major obstacle for innovation.
Yes.
And what you need now, it seems to me, is more than just incremental innovation, as what you say, right? Because you need to come up with all the quality and compliance issues later.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm a bit shocked what I see when I hear this. And yeah, but is the US car industry, is it also impacted or not?
No idea.
No
But
idea.
Yeah, probably. Also the Japanese one as well. I just read it on online. The Japanese also have basically everybody who's using their chips have the same problem.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, so what to say, right? What to say?
Well, it would be interesting to know. I mean, if you use these chips, don't they have like a backup chip? You're not really depending on only one supplier for such a essential component. So
uh,
what are
uh,
the backups?
So now the you have to understand that the car manufacturers, the OEMs, do not design these control modules. They go to a Bosch, to a Continental, to a whatever, Valeo, and they design this part. And there are some critical parts where OEMs are making deals with silicon manufacturers, with chip manufacturers, but mostly on power MOSFETs and so on, these obvious parts. But then the tier ones, they decide what to use. They decide which source they use, and there are the only requirements is to be resilient, to have a non-China supply, and China for China supply. This is what I know. I don't know what Volkswagen did in this case.
Hmm. I also don't know. How. Yeah, but yeah, it's a very bad situation. So the question is now, especially if you are tier 3, 4, 5, 6 supplier, then what do you do in Germany? And hopefully you are not dependent on with more than 20% on one of those suppliers that are a bit up in the value chain.
But Nexperia was always a safe bet. European supplier, no problem, and so on. Just what they really overlooked was this chain with the packaging service. That
Ah,
this was really done in China and not in Taiwan.
okay. Okay. What I can tell you is, because I've seen a similar thing from chip cards, um, there are some um, chip card there chip card manufacturers that have the same constellation as an Xperia, and I believe the name is Lanxess, if I'm not wrong. And that company is owned by a Chinese company. And now all the major chip card manufacturers, especially those that work with the US, they don't want the technology from that company anymore. But there are more second suppliers around the world in the chip card industry. But I have seen this effect before, only 4 weeks ago, that you have this. There's a Chinese company is the owner of the supplier company. The Chinese company gets blacklisted in the US, and suddenly the the Chinese mother company owned European or non-Chinese company or whatever, Southeast Asia or whatever, they have problems in selling the products. So either it's not taken by the market because there are other suppliers, or in the case as we have here, the Chinese mother company even prevents the products from being sold. And they say probably, okay, we run this into the ground, and that's the retaliation for this humiliation that you have done to us because you didn't want our CEO in power anymore. So it's quite interesting. And Roland, have you heard something similar from one of your clients? Probably not. Muted. Yeah. So about the innovation part, that why we are here, I mean, difficult to say, but for the small and medium-sized enterprises, they better have not put all their eggs into one basket and just work for one client only or one industry only. And that again calls for systematic program for doing innovation. And I have a very interesting encounter because one of our clients is into producing miniature RFIDs that are put in jewelry. And by using these miniature RFIDs, you can something like provide an identity to a piece of jewelry. And they were now looking for ways to market their invention. And one of the ideas was to approach insurances and offer them that for specific clients that travel with very expensive jewelry, they can mark those jewelry. So if it's stolen, it can be found again. And also you have fraud protection, insurance fraud protection, because you can ask the client or the customer who is traveling with this jewelry to other countries to scan the jewelry upon arrival so that there's proof that this jewelry was really brought to another country. And and most fraud cases in the past that they had was that the jewelry stayed where it was in Hong Kong or Singapore or whatever, and then they traveled to another country, and then they went to the police and said, "Oh, it was stolen from me. I was sitting in the train station, and suddenly this thing was missing from my neck." And then they got the insurance insured some back, and at least those cases you can prevent because at least you have proof that the jewelry piece of jewelry was brought to the other country and not kept somewhere else. And when it's brought to another country, it's more difficult to commit fraud when you had a piece of jewelry on you. So, and I contacted the CEO of a very large insurance that also have a travel insurance, and I asked him whether we could, whether he's interested in knowing more. And then he said, the problem, yeah, we don't have this and that. And I said, yeah, but it would be an innovation. And then he said, yeah, but maybe this is a very risky innovation. And I said, yes, we do this and that. And then I tried to talk with him. So do you have a certain budget left for innovation? And the answer was silence. So this is a very large insurance, and they don't have a budget for innovation. And I was very surprised. And when we talked about Frank Mattis and his book, which still sits on my desk, The Now and the New, which was written for large MNCs, multinational companies, I get the impression that they all have already an innovation management and a budget for that in their company. But and this is an MNC I spoke with today, and not today, yesterday, and the answer was clear. They don't. So I don't understand. Can please maybe you understand better. I don't understand. How do they survive without innovation?
Say, Martin, what's to prevent the bad guy from grinding off the RFID? Because De Beers puts laser marks on the edge of diamonds, and when they get stolen, they simply grind it off. Where is this RFID? It's not inside the gold. It's got to be on the surface, right? So they look under a microscope, and the bad guys just grind it off.
The issue is, can you sell this piece of jewelry in good faith? And
Well, good faith. The bad guys don't care about good faith. They care about millions of dollars. Come on.
no, the issue is more complex because
Well, you don't see the marks. If they take it off and they polish it, you're not going to see where it used to be. Come on. De Beers had the same idea with laser engraving diamonds, and it fell on its face.
the thing is that the jewelers that are into those, most jewelers I found out are honest people. And
But the bad guys aren't, Martin. If these things are a black market and they're stolen or what have you, it's just like the black market for stolen diamonds and smuggling from Sierra Leone. And you're not going to control it by an RFID. I hate to sound so skeptical, but
You-
I had some
You
work
might
with
control
industrial
resale
diamonds.
value.
Well, then you're not going to have. There's not going to be any mark, though, Joe. There won't be any sign that that's been tampered
Yeah,
with.
they'll
Nah,
they'll
you're
take
not going
the
to see it.
multi-million-dollar jewelry and they'll just melt it down for the $10,000 worth of value.
Well, no, you don't melt
And
it
that's
down.
still a
You,
win for the
you look
thief.
you look under a microscope. You find the RFID and you grind and polish it off in 10 seconds. It's gone.
is a typical case again, right? So we have here, and this is where we started. We have here an inventor's idea turned into a product, and now they try to find out whether this is used. And the big mistake that was made was that they didn't put in the market research before they started to build the product. And the market research, again, you need to, there are two ways of doing it. Number one, you do a market study, and I don't know whether there's a market study for marking expensive or valuable goods. I believe there is because of counterfeiting already, not only because of stealing. And what is going on? They need to take a simple product, best would even be a mock simulation, and go around and try to find problems that can be solved in relation to that area, namely how to mark a certain piece of jewelry and would it be of value? And there might be many like Michael saying, what a nonsense suggestion. But others would say, wow, that's a very good idea. I just give you, I'm very cautious with judging inventions because when I worked as a junior examiner at the German Patent Office, and we all, as a patent attorney at my time, you had to go through that stage. I spoke with someone from the patent office. They said that in the 30s of the last century, there was a running joke in the German patent office because there was a patent application for a wiper, a windscreen wiper for the rear window. And the whole patent office brought up arguments like, Michael, you did just now. What a stupid idea. Who would need a windscreen wiper for the rear window of a car when we only have a front window and the rear window is so small, because at that time that was from horse carts and they didn't have really rear windows and so. And today, I would say every second car has a wiper for the rear screen, right? But that's 100 years later. So I'm a bit cautious always in finding the negative points of or negative aspects of an invention, because at a later time it might turn out that this is just not yet just didn't meet yet the right situation, was not there at the right time, at the right place. And that's what I mean with finding the right problem. It's not about the product itself and whether it would solve the problem that the people have now at hand, but if there is an application in another context, that is really a problem, and that would be solved by that specific invention. That's what I want to say.
Well,
And
say Martin, RFIDs, they thought for preventing shoplifting, they put RFIDs on expensive purses and furs and clothing. And the shoplifters simply cut it off and still walk out the store. The RFID is found on the floor and the fur goes out.
I happily
Well-
let you win this argument. I just want to say I have no issue with what you say. Yes, it's good, but that should not prevent someone from going around and try to find the real problem and then design a solution. And
What's interesting, Martin, is unless all diamonds have it, you're not gonna find the bad guy for the absence of the laser engraving. So unless all jewelry has this mini RFID, the absence of it is not going to be a telltale sign that it's fraudulent or stolen. So you have to have it on 100% of jewelry, so that if it's not there, then you could be suspect of a problem. But the problem is you're not going to put it on 100% of jewelry, just like you're not going to put RFID tags embedded in a fur coat. It's going to be able to be clipped off and
Yep.
bag. We studied this. You asked about market research studies. The diamond one is well published.
Mhm.
And the lesson learned is unless it's on 100%, it's simple for the bad guy to grind it off.
Yeah, just again, yes, Michael, I agree with all what you said. That these may be problems. Yes, I had a similar situation with we talked about the brewery last week, right? And so I talked with the owner, and then the owner said, "Oh, I have this employee, and if we let him do the innovation, he's always the one who shoots down the ideas." And he brings up all sorts of critical ideas that discourages the inventors. And then I said, "Oh, but we have methods to deal with that." And then he said, "What method would that be to deal with that?" And then I said, "Oh, we have the De Bono 6 heads model." And the De Bono 6 heads forces the participants of a discussion to wear hats in 6 different colors. And at the same time, everyone wears the same color hat. And then they have to discuss the ideas in the terms of the color of that hat. And the 6 colors is good that we have it here for refreshing because it's such a good example. I take one of my books where I have described it. The best color or a good color to start with is always the white color hat, is about data. And another color that is good to start with is the green color. And the green color are all the new ideas and creative thinking for improving what is there. And then the yellow hat is about the positive impact of the new invention, and that is substantiated mostly by facts and by logical reasoning. So then we have the black hat, and this is about difficulties, dangers, risk, and worries. And then you use critical judgment and logical reasoning to identify bottlenecks, shortcomings, and problems. And then another one would be the red hat, and the red hat is the feelings, intuitions, emotions, and even hunches that are not backed by facts, and everybody can say what they feel, and they can even become religious and political. And the final hat is the blue hat, and the blue hat is the one for the boss, and he makes the decision. He's the moderator, and he can also shift the discussion. And the dynamics are such that the moderator would ask people to put in thoughts only, right? We wouldn't wear real hats. Would ask people. So now we wear all the red hat, and then everybody can say for 5 minutes the feelings. And then the next one would be, say, the yellow hat now, and then they all speak about the positive impact and And then the next one, green hat. What are the creative thinking now? And now the black hat. And then everybody, inclusive the creative inventors, they must come up with difficulty, dangers, and then and when you have once observed the dynamics of such a discussion, you really like the idea, because then you force everyone to come up with a contribution and step into the boots of the other participants, and no thought falls under the table, and that's important. And so that came to my mind. So I told to the boss, and then he started laughing. That's a great idea. Let's try it out next time when we do this. And so we know already. Next time we play the multiple color hat, Michael. So today with a market response and with a RFID, I found out that you really like the black hats, correct? Got you.
I'm loving this. This is a nice new addition to, I mean, it sounds very much like the software development hats.
Yeah, Martin, I don't want to be the black hat guy, but I will be for a second. So, you know, brainstorming is like no idea is a bad idea, but you've put 6 different colors on brainstorming, so I like it. It's really good. But what I brought to bear with the diamond example, I think is sort of a lesson learned. And what I said about RFID tags to prevent shoplifting, that's another lesson learned. They're still used because not all shoplifters are smart enough to cut it off. You know, they go in for the purse or the fur coat, and they're not technical. They just steal it. And then as they're
And then
walking
on,
out of the store, yeah. So on the jewelry, I think the bad guys are going to be smart. They're going to know pretty quick that this is out there. And if one of them go to jail, the story will get around. They better look under a microscope at a jewelry.
Actually, I really, if you discuss certain, I mean, this is why we have a system here, a tactics, right? So, and the easiest one, the most simple to remember, is that guides you to all the different areas except for finances, is this 4x4, where you look at different aspects and you try to fulfill everything. And then once the market response testing comes up, then the question is, how do we do the market response testing? And that's for me, that's a very good question, because I mean, the easiest is if the market comes to you and knocks at your door. For some reason, you bring out a product by chance, and you show it to the first customers, and they like it. And they say, oh, the price is reasonable. Can I have it? Okay, you sell more. And then you do the same thing again, and you find, wow, that works. And only then you find out what is the problem that is solved with that. And if you don't have that chance that you come up with something that's in the right direction, like a minimum viable product, for example, then it's a bit more complicated. And there are 2 ways of doing it. The first one is you come top down. You do your market research and I assume, because I've never done market research in my life, that you start with a hypothesis, and the hypothesis would be about what do they need, and what I learned from Bruce Wojcik's book, The Serial Innovator, is that those serial innovators, they go one step further. They would start with a hypothesis and then refine the hypothesis and refine the product idea that they have in order to answer to that hypothesis. And they do it several times until they find a good fit. And what a pity that we don't have Rich McDonald here today, because he is more a friend of not going this iterative way, but going more into detail with this, asking the right question in the beginning. So I've seen, now I know at least 3 or 4 different ways of doing it. And what I can say is that I believe ultimately, as long as you have in mind that you need to do this, then you're on the safe side. But those failures come from those developments that are done without asking what the market really needs and what problem needs to be solved. And for electric vehicles in Europe, I would say nothing was done, but they just tried to copy Tesla because they were so successful in the beginning.
May I add an interesting aspect to this? Yesterday, I was on a conference. It's called IC-LED. IC-LED is an intelligent, addressable LED where you can have on one wire up to 4,079 LEDs. And you can control each and every pixel of this.
Okay.
Where did this come from? Back in the days, I saved 7 Series from the press. Engineering cars have to be destroyed after use. And I took the 21 LEDs interior light out and replaced them with 780 addressable aftermarket LEDs.
Okay.
Wow. It was unbelievable. And what I also did, I added not only a rainbow, I added experience, a sunrise, where the sun goes up and it explodes in this car. And there is a lava stream coming down. There is the eye of the siren that is following you. There is a Lichtorgel. There is a light and sound reaction, and. So this is where I started my presentations, and the very first time at 12 o'clock noon in bright daylight. Interior lighting. So just to avoid the question, how does it look at day? Anyway, back in these days, the general manager for interior lighting clapped on my shoulders and said, Jürgen, great job, wonderful, but it's not automotive. And I said, Robert, what do we have to do to make these LEDs automotive? Then we sat down and started to write patents.
Uh-huh.
And right now we have a volume of yearly 600 millions this year of these LEDs in all over Korean cars, BMW, and so on.
Okay.
And it's very successful. There are a lot of companies who are supporting this, and I'm still supporting it with some software hacks and all these things. That's a hobby of mine. And it was, but back to the what I want to add is ask the customer, the potential customer, what do we have to do to make it happen?
Yes.
This was the key point. And then we invited all the LED manufacturers of the world to sit in this car and give their thing. And then we also invited all the electronics chip manufacturers of the world to sit in there. And there were LED company Dominant were the first one who said, yes, I want this. This is such a cool shit. This is unbelievable. And this will change the interior in the automotive industry, because light is a new chrome. It can be updated all the time, and so on and so forth.
But
And
just a humble question for my personal culture. Why what is the meaning when he said this is not automotive? What is the difference between automotive LED and a non-automotive LED?
temperature. You have -42 plus 105 degrees, number one. Then you have an EMI issue. This has to be suppressed under a certain thing. And the moment you have an LED that is in a safety critical application, you have to do to check. You have to do diagnostics.
Mm-hmm.
So what we put in, we put a temperature thing in so that these things don't die at a certain temperature. What else we put in? That all LEDs have the same white color. It's an internal calibration that changed the complete LED manufacturing. Sometimes you have, when you have a white LED, a little bit greenish, a little bit reddish, a little bit bluish, and so on and so forth. It depends on the batch. So you have an accident, you need a new door or whatsoever, and suddenly the color is totally off. This is not acceptable. And we put a lot of little wonderful things out of experience and cost savings and all these things in. And yeah, and now we had our 6 Isolate conference yesterday, and it was pretty interesting.
Okay, interesting.
So the point, as I said, the point was ask the customer, what do we have to do? What are the prerequisites to make such a thing successful?
Okay. Yeah.
And as the gentleman said, maybe the result is all jewelry has to be identified with an RFID. When not, then it's not worth anything. I know. What do we do with old jewelry? Look at Paris. They don't have this ID.
Yes.
I know. But just to start this creative process, and if I hadn't asked him to participate, to put his knowledge in, we would have never ever put it into series production.
Okay. Yeah. So, but
And not only for BMW, I mean for a lot of Chinese manufacturers and Korean manufacturers and so on.
yeah, but essentially what you have done is following the serial innovator approach. You started with a hypothesis, namely that if you put this this LED panel that can mimic certain patterns and you can control them in a place where it's very prominent, and then you got an expert in the field and you show you something and it's quite spectacular, and he said yes, maybe it's spectacular, but it doesn't work. And then you find out, okay, so please let me know what is your problem, right? And then
Yes.
and then
What are the prerequisites
and
to
then you
make it
listen,
work?
and then you listened carefully, and then you came up with a solution. And the solution that you came up with is probably still similar with what you presented in the first place, but
Totally. Yes.
but probably not patentable because something similar was known already. But what you
We have 10 patents on that, believe me.
what I want to say is the following. Only the once you listened carefully to what his real problem is and you came up with a solution to that real problem, only then did you have the real invention. Because basically putting a LED panel to somewhere is an old idea, to speak in a black hat, but to make it such that it's compliant with requirements that you have in the car industry is a different game.
Yeah, it was
Christoph, quick question. So the giants in lighting, for ambient lighting in your house and your headlights in your car. So the giants like Philips and GE that were faced with no longer incandescent. Why wouldn't these giants have looked at the interior of a car, not just the exterior headlamps?
They were looking at, but they did not have this the fantasy that you can change and have an interior of a car always young, always up to date, can play with sportive, with soothing, with comfortable, just on light. This is unbelievable what you can do with lighting.
I'm surprised they didn't look, with all the 6 hats, if Martin was in the room, and if they had interior bulbs and sold billions of dollars of interior dome lamp conventional lighting. If LED was a threat, I would think they would at least have the white light covered for newer cars that that no longer had filaments in their light bulbs. So they already had a threat, and I'm surprised they didn't offer different colors, like you said, and a computer chip that would change the mood from every color in the rainbow. But that sounds like it's the key to your innovation there.
Yeah, their problem was that I was much faster than they. I was tinkering with when they just came out, these addressable LEDs. They were just brand new. It did not make any corporate stages or then the process is, yes, we will have an innovation engineering. Do we have a budget? How much may it cost? Is this really something what we need to do? And then go to the company. And the problem was, all the LED manufacturers have said, okay, LED, no problem, but putting this a microcontroller into the LED, big problem. All the electronics manufacturers told me, controller, no problem. But the LEDs around is the problem. They were all not ready to really jump onto this bandwagon, that this is one single part, what comes out the factory always in the same way and will never die. This was the idea behind that. And it took quite some time to convince those manufacturers, and also Osram. Osram, they started to produce those LEDs, but then they were bought by a company, AMS, also an electronics company. And AMS then said, no, we cannot buy any chips from other sources. We have to do this ourselves. So now they came up with an own solution, but our patents are so brutal. They have to make it very, very complicated and very hardware demanding. But anyway, those are just internals.
Yeah, very interesting. So today we went the whole way around with our market research and how to find the real problem. Thank you so much to all of you. I'm still shocked of what I learned about an Nexperia issue today, and we will hear more about that next week. Thank you again for coming, and see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye, Martin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.